So, in what seems to be a reply by Twitter to this dictionary gate guy who will not be named because if we name him, he might just throw a bitch fit and get our whole channel removed. But uh, Twitter has announced a Trust and Safety Council, and we're going to go ahead and go through the article and take a look at what they're trying to do here and see whether we like it or not. But since we're making a video about it, we probably don't, but we'll get into that. So let's go ahead and read through the article. On Twitter, every voice has the power to shape the world. We see this power every day, from activists who use Twitter to mobilize citizens to content creators who use Twitter to shape opinion. To ensure people can continue to express themselves freely and safely on Twitter, we must provide more tools and policies. With hundreds of millions of tweets sent per day, the volume of content on Twitter is massive, which makes it extraordinarily complex to strike the right balance between fighting abuse and speaking truth to power.
Oh, yes.
It requires a multi-layered approach where each of our 320 million users has a part to play, as do the community of experts working for safety and free expression. We're going to take a look at those so-called experts here in a moment, but just off these couple of paragraphs, don't really have much to say. It sounds pretty cool on paper, but like I said, we'll get into that. That's why we are announcing the formation of the Twitter Trust and Safety Council, a new and foundational part of our strategy to ensure that people feel safe expressing themselves on Twitter, because apparently that's such a need. As we develop products,
Right.
policies, and programs, our Trust and Safety Council will help us tap into the expertise and input of organizations at the intersection of these issues more efficiently and quickly. In developing the Council, we are taking a global and inclusive approach so that we can hear a diversity of voices from organizations including 1. Safety advocates, academics, and researchers focused on minors, media literacy, digital citizenship, efforts around greater compassion and empathy on the internet. We already talked about this in the previous attempt to film, but let's go ahead and talk about it for a second. What in the hell is digital citizenship? What does that mean?
I don't even know.
Like, I have no, like... I think I said this in our previous attempt, but are they trying to turn the internet into, like, a United Nations, so to speak? Is it trying to become the Federation?
It's actually an institute. Digital citizenship, using technology appropriately.
Ah, okay. Weird. Well,
Whether it is called digital citizenship, digital wellness, or digital ethics, the issues are the same. How should we act when we are online, and what should be taught to the next generation?
okay. That clears it up, but I think that's kind of a bad term, but we won't get into the semantics of it.
I think we should just for a moment, because I
Okay.
fully and firmly believe that part of digital citizenship should include a test when you get ready to log into Twitter. And it should be something along the lines of, you're about to make your opinion known online. Use the correct word.
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
And immediately, we would see just a massive number of people incapable of even logging in online because they can't pass a simple grammar test.
Yeah, probably.
And then half this problem would be gone.
Yeah,
I'm behind that initiative 100%.
I would probably support it too. Let's go ahead and submit it to Congress next month.
Why wait? Do it now.
All right. Okay, well, the number 2 is, well, it's the second bullet point. I'm numbering them. Who cares? Grassroots advocacy organizations that rely on Twitter to build movements and momentum. And you had said in a previous attempt at recording this that grassroots movements are usually a politician will go into a certain area and compile a group of people together to
They'll go and they'll make contact with people who share their ideals.
yeah.
And without actually having to be there, they will pass on what they would like to happen to these people. And those people will volunteer and go out and spread the message and try and get more information to more people to try and make sure that they're better informed.
Okay.
In theory.
And then the third bullet point is community groups with an acute need to prevent abuse, harassment, and bullying, as well as mental health and suicide prevention.
Again, 100% behind that.
Yeah, definitely. But we already have stuff like that. It's called the Suicide Prevention Hotline. It's a 24-hour hotline where you can call them. They're actually experts on making sure people stay in the right mindset. We had talked about this in a previous recording attempt.
As a matter of fact, there's actually even a for transsexual peoples, staffed by transsexual peoples, for transsexuals only. There's a new hotline out there.
Oh, really?
That is just for transitioning people, which is it's an interesting initiative. I wish them well on it. I hope it accomplishes all that they hope for it to.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see really anything wrong with that. As long as they're not trying to silence the regular suicide prevention hotline, then that's not an issue to me.
Oh no, not at all. I don't think it's anything like that.
Yeah.
But it does deal more with this segregation. Like the University of Connecticut has a new dormitory specifically and exclusive to people who identify as black.
Yeah, that's a little bit odd.
That's it. I don't understand it.
Yeah. But
are there really that many people out there identifying as black that they need their own safe space?
Well, I don't know if you heard about this. You probably did, because my little town of Spokane went national a few months back of the head of the NAACP center here and the movement here was actually a white woman pretending to be black and had even put on her resume that she had black parents and stuff. Completely unfounded.
Additionally to that, I heard that at one point she sued a college because she didn't get financial aid because she was white. Or something along those lines.
That may have happened. I did not hear about that.
She filed a lawsuit as a Caucasian.
Weird.
And it's a mess. But I mean, if she truly, strongly, genuinely wants to be black that much, she can just pull a reverse Michael Jackson.
That's a little bit.
But I'm fond of saying that America is such a great land of opportunity that it is the only place on the planet that a young, struggling, poor black man can come and end up with a career as a successful white female pop singer.
It's very true. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of these inaugural members of this. Well, we actually skipped the last thing. Last paragraph, that's the word I'm looking for. We have more than 40 organizations and experts from 13 regions joining as inaugural members of the council. Experts is kind of a debatable term, honestly, but we are thrilled to work with these organizations to ensure that we are enabling everyone everywhere to express themselves with confidence on Twitter. Let's see, I think you had something to say about that paragraph.
Yeah, we are thrilled to work with these organizations to ensure that we are enabling everyone, everywhere, to express themselves with confidence on Twitter. It sounds great, but there's an old adage that you cannot please everyone, and I believe that holds very, very true here.
Me too.
Not everyone is going to be able to express themselves with confidence. Some people aren't given that gift. Some of them have to come into it later in life and learn how to express their own opinion without being terrified about what someone else is going to think about it. However, the whole enabling everyone everywhere to express themselves with confidence on Twitter, the whole Twitter Trust and Safety Council is designed specifically to silence people who are expressing themselves in a way that certain people deem unacceptable.
Yep. And that's blatantly obvious with these so-called experts that they have on the council. Most notably, good old Feminist Frequency. That's what basically made everybody take a look at this and go, what the fuck is going on with Twitter?
What isn't?
Yeah, seriously. But we also decided to take a look at some of the other inaugural members, and some of it is so vague that you just can't even make a an observation about it. And then there's other stuff where it's they do put out. Well, we'll just take a look at this. Let's go ahead and take a look at. If you see here on the page, there's Dangerous Speech Project is one of the inaugural organizations. So let's go ahead and take a look at their website. And first off, we're going to take a look at their homepage. Now, let's go ahead and read this. Inflammatory public speech rises steadily before outbreaks of mass violence, suggesting that it is a precursor of, or even a prerequisite for violence. In many cases, a few influential figures turn their own people against another group using speech that has a special capacity to inspire violence. Dangerous speech. Found in a myriad of languages, cultures, and religions, dangerous speech is uncannily similar across them. For example, it often refers to people as insects, vermins, aliens, threats, or pollution. Now, that last sentence I kind of have an issue with, and I talked about this last time, but let's look at their examples. Insects, vermins, aliens, threats, or pollution. For those, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Insects, people aren't fucking insects. It's kind of, not, it's prejudice.
It's not kosher.
Yeah. It is prejudice when you're referring to a certain group as insects. Well, when it's a group of humans. If you're referring to a group of ants as insects, then I see where you're coming from. Vermins, aliens, pollution, all same thing. But the word that I take issue with is threats. This group is actually trying to say that you cannot identify somebody as a threat because that is dangerous. But I personally think that it's dangerous not to be able to identify somebody as a threat. If you see a dude walk into a convenience store with a ski mask, one would assume that he's probably going to rob the place, especially if it's summer outside and there's no use for a ski mask. But according to this, you cannot identify that guy as a threat because that might be infringing upon his rights. That's just my view on it, but I think it's a little bit ridiculous that they throw threats in there, but maybe they don't.
Well, quite clearly they don't. It wouldn't be on their list if it was to the point of being ridiculous.
Yeah. So let's this last little paragraph or add-on. Violence may be prevented by diminishing such speech or by making it less compelling to its audience without harming freedom of expression. I love how they had to throw that in there because they know it can be easily misconstrued as the other, or as the latter. The Dangerous Speech Project works to find the best ways to do this. Do they ever describe what they consider to be the best ways? I don't think so, but they did lay out a few guidelines, and we're going to take a look at that. So, if you want to look at these guidelines yourself, it's dangerousspeech.org/guidelines. And you scroll down, and they have the 5 defining variables of dangerous speech. The guidelines are based on 5 variables which affect the dangerousness of a particular speech act and the time and place in which it was made or I can't pronounce that word. Disseminated? Yeah.
Yeah, dissemination.
Okay. The speaker, the audience, the speech act itself, the social and historical context, and the mode of dissemination. The most dangerous speech act, or ideal type of dangerous speech, would be one for which all 5 variables are maximized. Now let's take a look at these variables. A powerful speaker with a high degree of influence over the audience. The audience has grievances and fear that the speaker can cultivate. Now I said this last night, just off the first 2, almost every single reviewer or content creator on YouTube falls under these 2 variables. So using just these 2 variables, you can kick every single content creator off of Twitter, as long as they're expressing some sort of opinion. If they're just like making like, oh, look at this crazy cartoon that I drew, then that's not really but if they're Angry Joe is a good example. He falls under those first 2 bullet points when he reviews a game. Is he dangerous speech? I guess maybe the corporations that run the games would probably think so.
And that is dangerous, but the whole point of this, and something that does help to clarify it, is as you go down across the guidelines, it says which the most dangerous speech act or an ideal type of dangerous speech, and I don't like that particular terminology
Yeah, I didn't really like it either.
because idealizing dangerous speech is the problem that we're trying to get rid of. So why exactly are you referring to it as ideal?
Because it gives
Would
them
be
the
one.
ability to, when they see the ideal type of dangerous speech, they can go, oh yay, we can do something about this. So it's ideal to them.
Right, but it says which all five variables are maximized. And so these are being rated by the Twitter Safety Council based on all five variables. And I don't know what they're going to do. They may use a scale of 1 to 10, or they may use the Rotten Tomatoes scale of 1 to 100, or they could use the Democratic primary nomination selection process, which is flip a bunch of coins. We're not sure yet.
Yeah.
Nobody's made that clear, and that bothers me too. But nobody says, hey, if one of these is true, let's go ahead and kick them off Twitter. And at that point, that's just absolutely ridiculous. So they're not ridiculous in this. This is very well-intentioned documentation, talking about the most dangerous speech act, the ones that we are trying to find a way to combat, the ones that we are trying to isolate, and say, hey, buddy, slow down, take it back a notch. Your 144 characters somehow managed to max out 5 different variables that classify your speech as something that could incite violence, either against yourself or against someone else. And we need you to take a step back and kind of think over what you said. Were you angry? What can we do to help? So on and so forth. So the intention is outstanding, but the methods granted to Twitter users currently are simply insufficient to curb the kind of behaviors that they're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. And plus, it's the inclusion of Anita Sarkeesian's group that really just made me skeptical of the whole thing.
Oh, by all means, there are many people on this list that make me concerned.
Yes.
Because their goal is not purely to keep people safe. It is to stop people with a dissenting opinion from being able to make their opinions known.
Precisely. Which one were we on? Okay, the third one. A speech act that is clearly understood as a call to violence. Well, the only way that can be is if somebody's like, hey, there's a couple of black dudes down the street, let's go fuck them up. Like, that's clearly understood as a call to violence. But what I think is going to happen is they're going to be using their subjective opinion to understand certain things as a call to violence. It won't be a unanimous, like, oh yes, that is certainly a call to violence. It'll be, well, if you twist it this way, you could perceive it as a call to violence, so therefore we gotta take it off. So, sorry about that.
Yeah, and that is quite concerning, because this is handing over the keys to the kingdom to people who have already proven themselves to be untrustworthy with the level of power that they've already been granted.
Yes.
Anita Sarkeesian's group, for example, refuses to allow any comments on YouTube to be
or it
put
doesn't show
through.
the ratings either.
And it doesn't show the ratings. And so you have to go to a separate forum to discuss their videos. And the only forums in which you are so-called authorized to discuss these things with the creators of the content themselves are so heavily moderated that if your opinion is dissenting, it is immediately removed and your account status revoked.
Yep. I have not tried it personally, but I'm sure that's how it works.
They refuse to have their opinions countered for any reason. And that's dangerous speech.
Yes, I agree. So, the fourth bullet point is a social or historical context that is propitious for violence. for any of the variety of reasons, including long-standing competition between groups for resources, lack of efforts to solve grievances, or previous episodes of violence. So these guys want to eliminate competition for resources, is that one?
No, 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 no. What they're trying to do is any sort of discussion. For example, when you begin to look at Hamas and the Gaza Strip in their competition with Israel right now,
Mm-hmm.
there is a long-standing history of violence between this, if you believe certain people in the United States government, wonderful religious and humanitarian organization that is responsible for a huge amount of terror attacks, the kidnapping of young men, and in some cases violent murders of young people who are of Jewish descent. That would borderline classify Hamas as a terrorist organization. Using school children to hide behind and putting your artillery and rocket launchers inside of a school and then screaming and crying to the UN when the school gets blown up after Israel warned them for weeks ahead of time that they were going to strike the school if the rocket attacks didn't stop,
Yeah.
and asking people to get out. Okay, that's the kind of dispute that we're having. However, if I decided to have my opinion known on this, listening to both the news reports coming out of Jordan, the news reports coming out of the Gaza Strip, the UN briefings on the Gaza Strip and the conflict with Israel, and then listening to U.S. media and Israeli media about these things. If I come with a well-informed opinion and say, you know, in this case, both people fighting over these resources are not entirely in the right, but Hamas is more wrong than Israel. Immediately, I am classified as engaging in hate speech because, for any variety of reasons, there is long-standing competition between these groups for resources and a lack of efforts to solve grievances or previous episodes of violence. Because no matter what, every single ceasefire has been broken by Hamas.
Yeah.
Israel has not broken a single ceasefire.
Yeah.
And so when I say that, well, Hamas isn't trying to solve this, I'm guilty of hate speech according to these, or dangerous speech according to these variables, despite the fact that it is the truth, despite the fact that it is historically from 5 separate news sources verifiably correct. I am in the wrong because there is a long-standing set of grievances between these two nations.
Yeah, and that's what we really take issue with, is that these people are going to manipulate these into hiding shit, hiding the truth, hiding opinions that they believe is dangerous.
And that just, it bothers me.
Yeah,
so
me too.
very, very much.
Me too.
Like a discussion that you and I had the other day. You are either 100% free to speak your mind regardless of it, as long as you are willing to accept the consequences of your speech, of your actions.
Yes.
As long as you are willing to accept those consequences, regardless of what those consequences are, you are either completely free to speak your mind or you are not.
Yep.
And this is the addition of new and uncontrollable consequences from a group of people who have been repeatedly shown to be willing to silence anyone whose opinion is different from their own for any reason, regardless of whether or not there's any call to violence.
Yeah, I agree. You definitely put it a lot better than I do most of the time. Let's take a look at this fifth variable here, a means of dissemination that is influential in itself. For example, because it is the sole or primary source of news for the relevant audience.
Okay, so I want to see the Twitter Safety Council immediately and without any hesitation begin issuing citations of shutdown for MSN, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, and CNN, like right now.
Any news source needs to be off Twitter, according to this guideline.
No, not just on Twitter. They said a means of dissemination. That is any type of media. So the Twitter Council is talking about attempting to assert authority over any kind of medium through which a person might be able to influence others.
Oh my God.
Using dangerous speech. That is what this sentence means.
That is horrible. I didn't even take it like that. Holy shit. That is fucked up beyond all lines of... I'm almost speechless. Like, that is bad.
And here I thought the federal government was guilty of massive overreach. But here we're looking at the Twitter Safety Council that's going, any means of dissemination that is influential in itself. And so we're looking at Facebook, we're looking at Twitter, we're looking at BuzzFeed, for crying out loud, all of the major news organizations, because they are news organizations.
Yep. That's fucking ridiculous. So below that they put each speech act should be evaluated in terms of the information available regarding the full set of variables, as in the case of the OSAPG's own analysis framework for gauging the risk of genocide. The variables are not ranked, nor are they weighted equally across cases. In many circumstances, one or more variables will weigh more than the others. For example, an especially outrageous or frightening speech act may be more important, i.e. more dangerous, than other factors in a particular instance. In other cases, an audience may be especially susceptible to incitement, or the overweening influence of a speaker may contribute most to the force of his or her speech. So what I'm pulling from this is that what they're saying here is, we've laid out these variables, but we still decide on a case-to-case basis which variables are more important. And they don't go in, well, do they? No, it doesn't seem like they go into how they would decide which variables are important, besides a couple of very vague examples.
And that's... it both helps and hurts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To have a vague set of concepts is much better in the end, in my opinion, than having a whole bunch of specifics before all of the data is in.
Okay.
Every time we see a new game come out, there are things called exploits. Most of them get pruned out during the alpha period. A bunch more get pruned out during beta. Mm-hmm. A whole crap ton get removed during open beta. But even once the game is released, there are these things where you can abuse the system to get the things for free or for minimal amounts of effort, and it's not necessarily a good thing.
True.
But rather than saying very specifically, okay, we're going to look in this location, and as long as we don't find any bugs or exploits in this area, everything else is fine.
Yeah.
It's better to just say we have a policy of fixing all of these things as they come up, regardless of the root cause, regardless of the method used to exploit them. We're going to do our best to try and make sure that it's fair and balanced. And in that sense, having a vague set of formulaic guidelines on which to operate. And so this is, in essence, the very beginning of critical thinking. To say, all right, we're going to process everything that comes across us through a set of very specific variables.
Yes.
A speech act that's clearly understood as a call to violence, a means of dissemination that is influential. Okay, if these variables are all maxed out, we need to take action. However, I have yet to see anything in here talking about specific actions that will be taken.
Yeah, that's where I want specificity.
Specificity.
Yeah, okay. I knew I pronounced that wrong the second it came out of my mouth. I was just like, Noah, stop, too late. Okay.
But in other cases, an audience may be especially susceptible to incitement or the overweening, which means the excessive confidence or prideful influence of a speaker.
Yeah, you can't even have confidence in what you're saying, but they want you to have confidence.
Excessive confidence. See, confidence is one thing, excessive confidence. And in a sense, if one may be liberal with the interpretation of the English language. What we're looking at is a rabid sort of enthusiasm,
Okay.
driven to push your ideas onto other people by your own personal pride and belief in the thing it is that you want to share.
Yeah.
That is the thing that they're trying to get across here, is the overweening, the prideful or excessively confident influence of a speaker. Someone who is literally so hell-bent on making everyone else a disciple of their personal belief that they either refuse to be silenced or draw people to them through the power of charisma that their confidence brings.
Yeah.
And that can be dangerous. For example, look at feminism. I mean, moving right along. Nothing to see here, folks.
Alrighty. Let's just read through this last little paragraph here. Analysis may be conducted with varying degrees of information. The more information available, the more fine-grained the analysis will be. Good on you, folks. Since speech can only be well understood and its influence gauged in the psychosocial, good song, historical and cultural context in which it was made or disseminated, the analysis is best carried out with the knowledge of the relevant language, culture, and social conditions, or with assistance from advisors who have such knowledge. Now, what are they going to classify as relevant language? Are they going to use the feminism definition of racism? Pride, or no, not Pride Plus Prejudice. That's a movie.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yes.
Now available on Netflix.
Yep, sponsored. Woo. No, not really. But are they going to use feminism's recent definition of racism, prejudice plus power, because a homeless dude can't be racist according to them? Or no, wait, he can because he's a dude, as long as he's white.
And what if he's straight?
Oh no, that's like double
What if
racism.
he sexually identifies as the gender he was born as?
That's like triple. Oh god.
That's like triple negative points right there.
Yeah, no, he lost the game.
But he's homeless, so he has a +1.
That's okay, so lift him back up. Yeah, that's...
Still very negative, though.
Yeah. But you see where we're going with this, guys, that I want specificity on the relevant language. What is relevant language to these guys? I'd like to know that.
Well, basically, if you go back to the Dangerous Speech Project, I believe it is, or the Twitter Safety Council, there are a large number of these places from Colombia and Japan and Indonesia. The Wahid Institute that we'll be looking at a little bit later is Indonesian.
Yes.
And wants to stretch its influence to the international circles as it becomes more influential as an organization. And so there are many, many, many of these places that are in different languages. And to take something and run it through Google Translate and hope you get something close to correct means Cyrillic or Russian, that entire block of the world, which relies on context and tone of voice to fully convey a meaning, to read between the lines, so to speak, as you're listening to and speaking the language, to give it a beauty and a depth that it does not have in just the words that are printed.
Yeah.
You have to take a look at the relevant language, and you have to say, well, what is the liberal interpretation of these things? For example, when you try and just word for word convert Latin to English, it comes across sounding pretty retarded, which is why a lot of people in my age group just don't get into Latin.
Yeah.
However, as you begin to study the artistic portions of it, when you look through Roman culture and you begin to study the art of what made them truly great, you can begin to see that the words are simply a utilitarian means to an end to express the pureness of the art and the culture that was such an expansive and widely known empire for so long.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to get across with this particular thing is we have to look at the relevant language. We have to understand how it fits into the culture. We've got to look at Spanish and French and all of these beautiful, flowery languages that have so many different ways to describe various things. And you have to understand where the speaker is coming from, their social and psychological background, what sort of educational level they have. And again, like they said in here, the more information you have, the finer tuned the judgment of their speech can be.
Yeah, so that is a good thing.
Which it sounds like a great thing, and it sounds very tolerant, it sounds very nice, it sounds very good. But the problem that I'm running into is the people that are going to be making that decision.
Yes.
And these are people who notoriously have said that they're going to create a table of various things. For example, if you're black, you get +2 points. If you're white, you get -3.
Yep.
And so on and so forth, to determine who gets to actually speak. And when you try and go and speak at a feminist conference, when you go to a feminist event, and you're just like, look, as a man, I would like to have my opinion heard. And they say, just stand at the back of the room like women used to do back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
No, there's a reason we are not in the 1800s anymore. There's a reason women's suffrage worked. There's a reason the emancipation of blacks worked. There's a reason we reversed all of these things.
Yep.
If whites were so hell-bent on holding power, they would never have removed these limitations on the so-called oppressed classes.
Yeah.
And if they were so powerful, they would simply put them back on.
Yep. I agree completely.
But we're looking at an entire group of people who've just been empowered and brought on to this Twitter Safety Council to advise them about what constitutes hate speech, what constitutes a privileged or powerful position from which to speak.
And that is what's worrisome.
And to quote the feminists, I believe that's problematic.
Yep. I prefer worrisome. I like that word better.
It is such a beautiful word, isn't it?
So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the Wahid Institute, because these guys right here. Now let's translate this page into English. So you may see some weird things like Laporan dan
publicasi.
Yeah.
Be respectful of the Indonesian people, okay?
I'm sorry, man. It's hard. I've never been around it. It's fucking hard.
These aren't weird things. If you're in Indonesia, this is the language.
Yeah.
God, you insensitive bastard.
Well, you're fucking culturally appropriating them by pronouncing it right.
Oh.
Ha!
Blow me. Blow me.
Alright, so,
Oh, wait, that would make us gay. Doesn't that mean we get some privilege back?
I think so. I think that's 2 points or something like that.
What if it's just bisexual? Like, what if it's you'll still do that, but you're more interested in women? Is that like 0.5 points, or like
if we start getting into decimals,
maybe?
then that's just a whole new level of
Ridiculousness?
Yeah, pretty much.
The entire thing is ridiculous. That's the whole point.
Yep. So even though I've clicked on English, most of these words are still in Indonesian, so that's gonna be.
You didn't click on English.
Oh, I thought I did. What the hell?
Yeah, you clicked
there
it
we
off
go.
of English. You started on English and translated it back into Indonesian.
Well, that makes me stupid. So, there you go. All of my opinions have now been proven irrelevant by my own stupidity.
But not all of them. You still have very valid opinions, but
a few
just
of them.
on this particular topic.
Yes. So let's go ahead and take a look at the frequently asked questions of the Wahid. Well, no, let's go to the About the Wahid Institute first.
Let's see what they want to tell the world about themselves.
Let's just take a look at their vision and their mission, which kind of could be the same thing pretty much, but they have 2 bullet points under vision. First one is, the Wahid Institute seeks to achieve the intellectual vision of H.E. fuck that name for the development of Indonesia, the welfare of the nation, and the social justice of humankind based on Islamic...
Abdurrahman
Yeah, like that.
Wahid.
It's not happening. The humankind based on Islamic values that upholds pluralism, multiculturalism, democracy, and human rights. Are there... Well, off the top of my head, the only one that I can think remotely upholds pluralism is Christians can be Christians as long as they pay us some money. Like, that's really...
Dimitude, yeah.
That's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that upholds pluralism. Democracy, not a very big thing in the Middle East. Human rights, only if you're
Well,
male.
it's mob rule.
Yeah.
Democracy by itself is great in theory, but it's literally the rule of the majority, or mob rule.
Yeah.
If everybody who wears red shirts, and there's 75 out of every 100, says that everyone who's not wearing a red shirt has to go work for sanitation for the rest of the week,
I'm putting on a red
that's
shirt.
democracy. That's democracy in action.
Yeah.
So the democracy sounds great. Everybody gets a vote. Everyone's vote is heard. But the problem is when you get a majority,
Who is uninformed.
it's a problem. It's not even just uninformed. Let's talk about the fact that there are more Africans in Africa, black Africans in Africa, than there are whites in the entire world, on the entire planet.
Okay.
That's a majority.
Yep.
If we instituted a worldwide democracy, whites would be outvoted on every single issue, no matter what. And for some people, that sounds like a great thing.
Yeah, probably.
And bully for them. You know, if that's their life goal, then they need to create a platform for it and enter government and try and make the change happen.
Yeah.
But democracy is not that good of a thing. So trying to expand democracy, trying to bring it everywhere, and it's just like, you know, let's go bring freedom and democracy to the Middle East. Let's not. Because let's look at exactly what happened when they tried to institute a non-lawful republic democracy, which is what the United States has. We are a republic, a nation of laws that looks at the majority vote and asks, first, does it violate anyone else's human rights? Is it lawful? Is it moral? Is it good? And if the majority is voting for very negative things, for example, everyone who's wearing a red shirt gets to live and everyone who's not gets put to the sword today. Because the people in the red shirts voted for that.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a democracy. However, a republic like the United States would look at that and say, you know, that's actually murder. It is against the law, and we're not going to do that regardless of how many people voted for it.
Yeah.
It is wrong. It is against our laws. It is against our morals, and it is a vast and inconceivable violation of other people's basic human rights, the right to live. So expanding just democracy by itself without instituting a rule of law and a system of government that enforces and protects the rights of those who are a part of the greater democracy in a republic is not a good thing. And let's look at exactly what happened to Iraq and Afghanistan. These are historic countries, beautiful countries. They are troubled, and they've had vast amounts of problems. There are subcultures within each of these countries, different races almost. They speak different languages. They worship different types of Islam on either side of these things.
Yes.
And because of these cultural differences, the minority group, the Shiite Muslims, I believe it was, had control of the country, and they treated everyone else like crap. but they were a minority. And so when America went over there and we fought and everything, instead of instituting a republic, we saw President Obama, in a rush to pull our troops out of there, trying to institute some kind of government, any type of government, settled on democracy. And as a constitutional law professor, which he was not, he was simply a guest lecturer
Yeah.
on constitutional law, he should have known that the only way democratic rule works is if it is first passed through the filter of a Republican law-abiding government.
Yeah.
The Democratic vote has to go through that. And so when he said, okay, we're just going to institute democracy, there was dancing in the streets. People showed up by the thousands to finally have their voices be heard after hundreds of years of being oppressed by the other side. And the vast majority, these Sunnis, showed up and they voted themselves into power. And the Sunni president of Afghanistan immediately began oppressing the Shiites. So reversing the evil that had already happened instead of seeking to correct it and looking for peace.
Yep. So the second point that they have under vision is the Wahid Institute strives for a just and peaceful world by espousing a moderate and tolerant view of Islam and working towards welfare for all. I take a big issue with this because I don't know if you've seen these studies, Mike, but there are studies, and they were done in the European Muslim community, where I believe it's upwards of 60% supports Sharia law. Now, this law, if I'm remembering it correctly, is the law that pretty much anybody that is not Islamic deserves to be persecuted and in some Muslim circles even put to death. When you have a majority of your religion that believes something as toxic as this, you do not espouse a moderate and tolerant view of other people towards that religion. You need to work towards your religion being tolerant and moderate, not the other way around. Because what you're doing by making other people be tolerant of Islam when it's been proven that a majority of that group, at least in the European area, is for the persecution of anybody who is not Islamic, me as an atheist and probably you as a Christian both take serious issue with that. I don't want to be tolerant of a group that is majoritarily not tolerant of me, if that makes any sense.
It does, but I think it's possible that we're misunderstanding their statement here. There is widespread throughout the community a number of imams, and they are lesser known, generally far spread out of the Middle East. Like, I believe one or two in Canada have come across with this. There's one in Sweden who's a very strong proponent of it. This gentleman here, also known as Gus Durr.
Yeah, that's how we'll be referring to him from now on.
Good old Gus.
Yeah.
Gus has this idea that Muslim is too intolerant of Western culture. He believes that for too long, Islam has espoused violence and anger, and he believes that a reinterpretation of the scripture is necessary, and he wants to reduce tensions around the world, including between all of Islam and all of Western culture, including the United States and Europe.
Okay.
And that is what they're trying to do. And what they're doing is espousing. That's not to make somebody else have a moderate view of Islam. Espousing means you marry it to your own ideology.
Okay.
That means you take your ideas and mesh them with this moderate and tolerant view of Islam.
Okay, that clarifies it for me. I always thought espousing meant preaching.
No, 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 no. In some ways, it can be when you're trying to get someone to espouse your ideas.
Okay.
Uh, but in this particular case, it's trying to strive for a just and peaceful world by having the institute itself, the members who come in and volunteer with this organization, to espouse this moderate and tolerant view of Islam, and through that filter, use that to interact with the rest of the world.
Okay. Well, then maybe they are doing something right there. You want to take a look at their mission real fast, and then we'll take one last look at how seriously we should take this movement because.
Well, I think pretty seriously because when you look at good old Gus down here,
Mhm.
he's been an important figure since before I was born.
Yeah.
To the point that he's led the biggest Islamic organization in the world for 15 years and introduced a tradition of interreligious and cultural dialogues, not just in Indonesia, but throughout the Islamic world and in some cases out in Western culture, talking with people who have problems with Islam and saying, there are some among us who wish for peace, and I am leading a group that's trying to do that. And so what he's done is he's tried to say, okay, this group of people under me are trying to get rid of certain aspects of Sharia law. Some of it is very good, but it's literally the struggle of an Islamic person's life. Their jihad, their internal struggle, is against the evils and their own failings as people trying to become better and better. And so his jihad, his personal struggle, is against this. And to that end, his mission that he's put forth, that this Wahid Institute, named after him, has picked up and begun to champion his cause, is cultivating, maintaining, and spreading Islamic values of peace and tolerance. Now, they're not trying to spread Islam per se, but they are trying to spread the values of Islam.
Okay.
And so even as an atheist, peace and tolerance are good things. Peace means there's no war.
Yeah.
There's no violence. Tolerance means even if someone's ideas are different from yours, like mine on capitalism versus yours,
Yes.
you can be tolerant of my ideas and listen to me, and I don't need to change your mind any more than you need to change mine. We can listen to each other, and based on our own personal experiences and our own personal values, we're still allowed to choose what we believe.
Yeah.
And so that's what they are trying to spread here.
Which I do want to say real fast, if anybody wants to, we might do a debate on that, on our opposing views.
That would be interesting. Let us know in the comments below if you would like to hear a card-carrying member of the Socialist Party
I wouldn't say that.
debate a person who has both benefited and been oppressed to a certain extent by capitalism.
Yeah, let us know, because I think that would be a good video. It'd be one of these longer ones, and people usually find debates entertaining. I know I do.
And this guy and I get very animated when we get into this, because our views are pretty closely held.
Yes, most definitely.
The second bullet point here under their mission is cultivating dialogues among local and international cultures to expand harmony between Islam and various cultures and religions of the world. It's a brilliant idea. Yeah. I love it. It goes back to the Mecca Quran, which when you read it is full of passages of love and peace and tolerance, and details, I think, in some cases much better than the Bible, the struggle of a religious individual trying to face off against all of the things that could be their downfall.
Yeah.
And so the Mecca Quran, an outstanding read. If anyone has the time, I don't recommend trying to read it in Arabic, but if you can get to the English translation of it and have an open mind for a liberal translation of some of the passages, you will find yourself in for a fascinating read, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. I believe it's good to become involved with and educate yourself about other cultures. That, in my opinion, is the best part of a cultural exchange. Not cultural appropriation, not multiculturalism, which I believe is just an excuse to be ignorant about other cultures.
Yes.
Multiculturalism is just this wonderful word that's, oh, I'm a multiculturalist. I love all cultures. Okay, well, what are the principal exports of Nepal?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
What is the primary religion in Nairobi?
Another thing
Who
I couldn't
knows?
tell you.
These are things that as a multiculturalist you don't have to know, because the culture in Nairobi is just so unique to that region, and all these vague words that don't mean anything but sound great while you're sitting there talking about how tolerant you are.
Yep.
But you have done nothing. You have sacrificed nothing to understand the culture of another country. You are simply appropriating that country's name to say that you are a more tolerant, better person, and so people should love you because you're a special snowflake.
Yeah.
That's multiculturalism.
Good way to put it.
But cultural commingling, reading through the Mecca Quran and actually trying to understand the foundation, the very first book of Islam, this Mecca Quran, going to another country, even taking a trip across the border and visiting a few cities in Mexico,
Yeah.
is better than sitting here in the United States from a throne of privilege and safety and saying that all the cultures in the world are equal is stupid.
I agree.
But that's multiculturalism. And that is one of the things that I disagree with as far as this. Pluralism, multiculturalism, and democracy. Pluralism, great. Just have all the religions. That's wonderful. Let's do it. Let's look at all forms of government. That's fine. We're not going to call them all equal because they aren't.
Yeah.
Multiculturalism, a cult of complete ignorance where you simply say that all cultures are equal without actually experiencing any of those cultures, without sacrificing any of your time or any of your energy to actually understand them. Democracy, mob rule, a whole bunch of assholes telling non-assholes that they're going to be servants for the next week because democracy.
Yeah. So
I do have some issues with this particular thing, but it's founded in a good-hearted place.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It seems like these guys, like, honestly, looking at this is one of the more respectful organizations they have. Or one of the more respectable organizations they have working on the Twitter Trust and Safety Council. I think
that's
feel
how
like,
you have to say it.
yeah, I feel like I have to sing it every single time. It sounds like Justice League or
Trust
something.
and Safety Council.
Like somebody out there who's good at animating needs to do like a spoof of like Justice League, but with the Twitter Trust and Safety Council, and they can do that thing where it's like, meanwhile, at the Twitter Trust and Safety Council.
Trust and Safety
Wonder Woman's preaching
Council.
to Batman about how he's culturally appropriating bats.
Oh, how horrible. Culturally appropriating vampires.
Yes.
Boom. And what?
But jokes aside, let's take a look at a couple, or these last few bullet points. Fostering initiatives to strengthen civil, or did we already look at this one?
We had not looked at this
Okay.
one. I went off on yet another tangent. I apologize.
Well, that's why I think people love you. Fostering initiatives to strengthen civil and society.
I am a
good
special
governance.
loved snowflake.
There you go. And society and good governance in Indonesia and expanding democracy. We really have already touched on this.
I think I may have glanced over that as I was reading the second bullet point, and that's why I went off on that last tangent.
Yeah. Promoting active participations of various religious groups in cultural dialogues and dialogues for peace. Great idea. Go Wahid Institute for that one.
Yes, you guys need to go talk to Hamas right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Developing initiatives to improve welfare and social justice.
If you don't eat pigs and we don't eat pigs, it seems it's been that way forever. So if you don't eat pigs and we don't eat pigs, why not eat pigs together?
Damn straight. Except I like bacon, and if anybody tries to take that away, I will become an armed citizen and throw a rebellion.
Damn Skippy. But that's Judaism and Islam.
Yeah. No, you're not allowed to take away my bacon. Although I will say, kosher Hebrew national hot dogs are like the best thing
Oh,
ever.
yes, yeah. Although there's a brand out of New England that's pretty outstanding as well.
Oh, okay. I will be on the lookout for that then. But we wanted to take a look at one final thing. So you guys may be wondering, like, why are you guys taking a look at this Wahid Institute and criticizing it? Well, and there's really one main thing that made us take a look at this. And if you come up here,
Other than the multiculturalism and the democracy and the
yeah.
pluralism and
But this was the thing that really, I think, made us both kind of go, whoa, what are these guys doing here? If you go to program on their website and then go down to the third link, it is research. Click on this and look at this amazing research. This is the best, most thorough investigative discoveries you will ever find ever. And you know what it is? It's one word. Research. That's beautiful. And
no, wait. Just to be fair, click on the button in the top right again. Put it back on the Indonesian thing.
oh,
There
yep.
might be some in their language.
Let's see. Oh, well, that brings me back to the homepage. Let's go to it again then. Nope. They even removed the English research. Now it's just Rosette. When on the English,
Reset.
you
Reset.
you get
That's
both.
it's Indonesian. It's Indonesian for research. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, as great as most of those views are, it's really hard for me to take anything you say seriously
If
when
there's no scientific data, facts, research, psychological data, uh, political surveys, there's nothing.
yeah,
Nothing.
even if you look at research and pull a different view out of it than I do, I can at least respect that.
And this is an organization that has been around since 1983. I am 32 years old. I'll be 33 this year. This is an institute that's nearly 33 years old, and in 3 decades, they couldn't put anything on paper.
Apparently not, and that's what's very worrisome. And there's even been almost 2,500 people who have viewed this page and been like, well, cool. Click off that because there's nothing here. But maybe they just need better web developers. I don't know. If somebody in the comments wants to let us know where we might be able to find some of these guys' research, we'll be more than happy to take a look at it. But this is not a good sign. And if you are going to put these guys on a council that is supposed to be enforcing certain regulations based
Creating the regulations.
And
these are people who are creating the regulations.
Yeah.
These are people who are deciding what the action to be taken will be in the case of violation of the guidelines that they get to create.
Yeah. And
this is bothersome on several levels.
Yeah, I see down here, designed by Ulam. Ulam, you fucked it up, bro. It's not there. And on that note, I think well, at least what I'll have to say is everybody should be extremely skeptical of this Twitter Safety Council. And I think most people are, but I also think there's a lot of people that aren't. That they're taking it at face value, and they're just like, well, it sounds cool, so it's probably going to be good.
Oh yes, we're going to protect people. We're going to stop bullying.
But when you dig a little deeper, this is the type of thing that you see, and then this is the type of thing that worries both me and and Mike. And I think on that note, we will end this discussion. Feel free to do your own research, and if you come to a different conclusion, then by all means let us know in the comments or on our Facebook page, link down below. We even have a Twitter now. You can check that out, link down below as well. And if you'd like to see that socialism-capitalism debate between me and Mike, also let us know that.
Also, if you want your voice to be heard, go ahead and give us a shout out. See if you want to participate in this discussion that we have.
Yeah, we may do at some point Google Hangouts or something like that. So if you guys enjoy that, or if you want to see that, let us know with that as well. Our channel's obviously in the infant stage, so we're still trying to lay everything out, make outlines and all that, as far as the type of content we want to put out. But so far, we are enjoying the reaction that we are getting from you guys. So let's keep that up. And anything else you got to say, Mike?
No. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, you guys, we'll catch you later.